Raised on a South Texas farm, Debra Medina is a wife and mother, a registered nurse, a businesswoman, a rancher, and a fighter. Debra has always drawn strength from the courage of her convictions. She first got involved in politics in the early 1990s when she saw that local leaders were not honoring the pro-life principles that guide her beliefs. Now chairing the Republican Party of Wharton County, she took the Republican Party of Texas to court in 2008 over violations in how the state convention was run. She is a homeschooler, homeschools her kids, and she has won battles that were not always popular. Battles, it says on her website, that often demanded uncompromising personal sacrifice. So, folks, welcome to the program, if you will, Debra Medina. Let's explore this run for governor that you're going to do. Debra, my first question, you're a Republican, obviously. You are the chairwoman of the Republican Party of Wharton County, but you've also been at odds with the Republican Party. So will you be competing in the primary with Kay Bailey Hutchison and Rick Perry?
Absolutely competing with Kay Bailey and Rick Perry, and I think it's kind of classic Republican values against big government republicanism, and those are the choices before Texas.
All right. Do you see a difference in Kay Bailey Hutchison and Rick Perry, or is it the same old thing to you?
I think pretty much it's the same old thing. You know, we've got some pretty serious economic issues facing our country, and those are the things that I believe will garner the greatest deal of attention. I think in Republican circles, we talk about the primary difference. You often hear the primary difference between the two being on the life issue. Kay has consistently been moderate or pro-choice, and Rick has consistently at least professed to be a pro-life. I'm going to start to take issue with some of the things that he has done that I don't believe are the least bit consistent with pro-life positions. Certainly not pro-family and pro-parental rights and parental.
What effect do you, are you concerned that your candidacy could have some kind of effect and perhaps harm the Republican Party, or do you think that it's a statement of, hey, this is a free state, I can run, I'm going to run on the far right, and whatever happens, happens?
I believe it's our only opportunity to restore the Republican Party, or maybe our best opportunity to restore the Republican Party. Republicans all across Texas at the grassroots level, folks that are out there working for a living, are sick of our leadership. We saw that in the congressional races in the last two cycles. We saw it in the House races in some of the major cities here in Texas where Republicans were poured out. We are sick and tired of people who won't walk the talk.
Let's talk about walking the talk. Debra Medina, if you become Governor Medina, let's go down a list of some things that you might do so people can get to know you. Let's start off with life. Pro-life, abolish Roe v. Wade?
Well, you know, Roe v. Wade's that federal decision, but certainly when it gets back to the states where it ought to be, we ought to have strong leadership on instituting pro-life legislation here in Texas.
All right, and what is your stand? Would you fight hard? Do you think Texas would vote to be a pro-life state if it were thrown back to Texas to decide?
I absolutely believe that's the case. I think we've seen that in our legislature even, where we've seen parental notification prior to an abortion required. We've had a push this year to require ultrasounds for ladies before they make that decision, helping them to make sure that it's an informed medical decision. And so I believe there would be a tremendous amount of support in Texas for those pro-life positions. I'm pro-life, period. I'm probably politically incorrect on pro-life in that I'm a registered nurse, a pro-life individual, and I believe that life starts at conception. So I'm going to be pretty tough and say I'm not going to make an exception in cases of incest or rape. That is a baby, and we need to protect that life. So pro-life, period.
All right. Well, I guess as a Christian, then you'd be correct, though.
Well, I try to be real consistent, and that's where I am. So I want to have a lot of compassion for the women who find themselves in that condition, and it grieves my heart that happens. But I believe we need to support them, love them through that crisis, set up as many community supports as we can, but we have got to protect innocent human life from the moment of conception. We need to look at the other end of the life spectrum as well. From the moment of conception till the time of natural death, we have got to protect life. And I've spent my nursing career primarily on the elder side. We certainly saw some of those issues come to everybody's attention in the Terry Schiavo case. We've got some life issues all across the spectrum, and we need to protect them.
All right, let's talk a little bit about marriage. Marriage is under attack, as you know. I assume you followed the Carrie Prejean story, Miss California, and Perez Hilton and what he said about her. And, of course, then he got beat up for making a gay slur himself in Toronto. But the central question here is that I'll ask you is what Perez Hilton, whatever his name is, asked Carrie Prejean. Do you believe that people should have the right to marry whomever or whatever they want to marry?
You know, the governor's job is to uphold the law of the state of Texas. And in Texas, consistent with my own beliefs, my own personal beliefs, in Texas, we've got a constitutional amendment, and that amendment passed overwhelmingly. Marriage has been defined by Texans clearly as the union of one man and one woman.
Okay, so I can't marry both of my girlfriends.
Don't have a dilemma there. That's where I am personally, and it's certainly where Texans are because we've got a constitutional amendment that supports that.
All right. Do you think as governor you could stop an administration like the Barack Obama administration from overriding the states on this particular issue?
I think we better meet them at the border with a very strong show of force on not only that issue, but a number of issues where the federal government continues to reach beyond its constitutional authority.
All right, Debra, let me ask you about a little controversy, and we're coming up. We've got we're going to have about 30 seconds before the break, but we can pick it up after the break. Rick Perry got into a little bit of a tete-a-tete when he was asked a question about secession of Texas from the Union, and this has picked up some steam. And I want to ask you, do you believe that in the wake of the Civil War that Texas has the right to secede from the Union, or do you think that Texas could take the right to secede from the Union, and would you in any form or fashion, under any circumstances, look at the possibility of secession? And we've got about 15 seconds, and then we'll pick it up on the other side.
I think that clearly under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, the states have rights that are theirs and are the people's, and Texas must stand on those. There's a number of things that we can do as a state long before we begin to talk about secession. All
right, we'll be back. Take it from there with Debra Medina right after these words. We were talking right before the break, and Debra, our breaks are hard breaks, so when the music starts playing, we have about 15 seconds to wrap it up here. But Governor Perry had talked a little about secession, and I have to tell you, Debra, I don't have very many days go by at this talk show that I don't get a phone call or an email about the possibility of Texas seceding from the Union.
There's an opportunity available to the states before we talk about secession called nullification, and it's one that Texas has not been using as much as it should be. It's available to the legislature and certainly to the Attorney General, and I won't profess to be a constitutional attorney, but I'm certainly surrounding myself with those folks who understand states' rights and who understand limited government. We ought to be pressing back. Montana has done that. They've nullified Real ID. The state of Utah has rejected No Child Left Behind. Lots of states tell the federal government we don't need your transportation or highway regulations in order to get your highway funds. There are things that we should be doing, and that posturing on the governor is nothing more than empty campaign promise and rhetoric, just like he offered on the border 4 years ago. It's shameful that he waved that flag in front of Texans. He knows we're concerned about the overreaching federal government. He has tools available to him that he has not used.